The Native American and Indigenous Writers Committee held a strike at Disney Studios in Burbank, California. The Writers Guild of America is heading into week 7 of the strikes, and organizers aren't slowing down.
Our main goal today is to make ourselves seen and heard. With the Writers Guild, we have, the strike going on, of course, but when it comes to Native and Indigenous writers in general, people have yet to truly grasp and understand our specific role in storytelling and how crucial it is that we are the ones that are telling our own stories. So not only are we here to make sure that our demands are heard, to make sure that our stories are told by us, through us, but also to be able to have fair wages so that we can tell our story with full agency and also get paid fairly for it. But yeah, a lot of today is all about, uplifting each other and bringing about that Native joy and being able to just be with one another during a time that most people would consider tumultuous.
In the midst of writers' careers on hold, the demonstration brought a sense of community and looking towards future generations of storytellers.
When we first started the strike, there was so much enthusiasm and people started doing these theme pickets just because, during the pandemic, we've all been in these Zoom rooms and nobody's been able to be in person. And we really got so much out of the solidarity of marching and picketing together that people started being like, oh, are you a fan of this? Writers' rooms started doing reunions and things like that. And then there started being Latinx picket, Southeast Asian picket. And so we decided to do an Indigenous takeover because there are so many more Indigenous writers today in the WGA than there have ever been, and we wanted to come out and be seen. And when we have a gathering, you got to have music, you got to have food, you got to have songs, and so we really wanted to bring that community to our larger WGA community, but we also wanted to make sure that people know that, when you see these dancers and you see these singers, these are people with voices that are demanding to be heard in the exact same way that we are as picketers. I've been in the industry for 13 years, so these are really your earning years. These are the years when you're you get shows and you start to really kind of lean on all the knowledge that you've built up and all that kind of experience that you have. And so to take this break has been really hard. But when I first got here, it was in 2010, and a strike had just finished. And there were a lot of writers talking about how they had put their careers on pause so that my generation of writers would have it better off. And so there's a huge legacy of writers fighting for that next generation, and so I'm honored to be here doing this.
Demands against AI and for fair wages make it critical for writers and stories to thrive.
Pens are down, so this content that we're consuming, it feels like there's so much of it, and there is. You put on any of the streamers and you have all of these options, but the shows that you love, they are crafted by people who have spent so many years trying to be able to tell a story in the most efficient, most beautiful way and find their most authentic voice and, pouring themselves onto the page. We can't take that for granted anymore. So a lot of these shows that we love are not being created anymore. And whether it's today or whether it's tomorrow, people are going to feel that. And as far as AI goes, that is very complicated, and we're trying to make sure that we're not replaced and we can maintain the creative integrity of our work and not be replaced by robots. It's loaded, but I feel like we're finally at a time where Native writers, the percentage of Native writers, and I'm in television, so specifically in TV, is the lowest percentage that I'm aware of, but we're finally having more writer programs that are giving Natives a voice and opportunities. That's how I got on the Connors myself. I did the Disney Writers Program, and before that, the LA Skins Native American Writers Labs and Showrunner Program. So these things are finally in place, and we're finally getting a foot in the door, and now this. So it just feels like we are fighting as a union, all writers, but specifically the timing sucks that we finally are getting an opportunity. This feels like a family reunion because Native Hollywood is small. So it's fun to gather to show solidarity within the guild and just remind people how individual writers are and how we can't be replaced by technology and AI. We have very specific backgrounds and stories, and this is us demonstrating that with our Native culture. So the turnout is really amazing, and it's not just Native people, it's allies and people who support the culture.
Members of the Screen Actors Guild also recently authorized a strike and showed up in solidarity.
We just voted. I voted for it because I believe, we got to stand united in solidarity. If the writers are dealing with the situation, so are we. We're one, really. I mean, they're the ones who creatively bring these scripts, write and create these scripts, and then it's our job to give them life and give them breath. So anything, in my estimation, anything the writers are about, we need to be a part of it too. We're one. That's where the real solidarity is. I mean, first of all, it seems to me that we're the only race or nation that still is struggling for identity and validation in the industry. So I want to see writers, directors, DPs, everybody. I want to see everyone on set that we're represented. We are still fighting for validation and fighting for a voice, and it is our time. We're not going away. We've always been here. We will always be here, and it's our time to shine like everybody else.
While the amount of Native voices on screen and behind the scenes is important, the quality of the stories is what matters most.
I mean, you hear it a lot that Indigenous people are the first storytellers of this land, and we have a place in Hollywood, and it's not something that can be manipulated by other people. If you look at things like AI, if you look at things like the algorithm, that are things that can change Indigenous people and our imagery, and we don't have control over that. And so what I'm always out here for is Indigenous people telling our own stories, no stories about us without us, and we have really made huge strides in the last 5 years, and we don't want to go backwards, and that's part of why we're out here.
In Southern California, Paris Wise, ICT News.